1 second. I think you guys know because the title of the episode. But
and we're live.
And we are live. Alan likes to say we are live. Can you tell what this little glass is?
No, I can't, man.
It's I brought it to the show in honor of us talking about China and Xi Jinping. Does it look like a little teddy bear?
Little bear.
I thought it was like an actual like thing of like Xi. I was like, why would you buy that?
No. I mean, it looks close though, right? Like minus the little snout. Like it's a very similar body type. You know, if I start describing it more, I'm going to come across racist, especially with this cowboy hat on.
Yes, you
so
are.
I'll restrain myself.
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's not racist until
one.
Yeah, it's not racist. They're CCP, you know. I think we'll just kind of go right into it. I just because I do have like a very I would not insult people with actual OCD, but there's things that I hate when I don't do. So welcome to episode of None Taken with our special guest Sino Talk. Second time. Ooh, repeat guest. That means he likes us, Alan.
Welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys. It's been it's an honor to be back on the show, and I mean, I enjoyed coming on. I enjoyed my last time, and hopefully this time would be the same.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Good to have you back.
It's nice to be able to ask you all the questions that I really don't know where to get answers for. So you are the source. Actually, you know what? Maybe people are new to the show since you've been on last. Do you mind giving a little bit of, pardon my lack of decorum, but why the fuck should...
Yeah, so for I guess Wave Tops, my name is Sino Talk, also Joaquin Camarena. I am.
You cut out.
Okay.
It sounded like I was very rude and you weren't responding.
No, you're fine, dude. My bad. Yeah, my name is Sino Talk, aka Joaquin Camarena. I run the Sino Talk page on Instagram and Discord. Well, hopefully back to Discord and Twitter. I am a China expert and then with that, Indo Pacific as well. Throw that in there because why not?
Hey, we got questions regarding that too. So yeah,
that's good, man. I hope I'm able to answer them. But yeah, also I'm also the desk chief for the Indo Pacific region for Atlas News as well. So.
Yeah, nice, I think every one of our listeners are familiar with Atlas News, which that makes me feel like we're in good company. Like people don't share us stuff like, "Did you see that?" It's like, no, yeah, we got the alerts. Like we're all in the
yeah,
thing.
hell yeah.
Well, let's jump right into it. I think the most pressing thing regarding China that I'm kind of interested in, as of recent, is the continued conflict with the is it second Thomas Shoal more recently, right? Because there's first and second, correct?
No, just second Thomas, Dave.
Okay, I mean, I don't know. That's why I ask you, right? So St. Thomas Virgin Islands and China and the Philippines. Okay, I'm joking. So there's like, you know, the sort of reefed vehicle that they resupply,
the boat and they ran aground, yeah.
That the Philippines, you know, resupply or attempt to. And China's asshole doesn't fucking let them do it. And most recently, like as of either was it maybe Sunday or Monday, depending on our dateline situation, China destroyed what they called rigid inflatables, boats that and we're spraying water cannons and ramming the Philippine vessels and just saying the Philippines started this, you know. We didn't have anything to do with it. And then the footage came out, and it's classic China, right? Like the first thing you heard about was China saying it first, so they could kind of control the narrative. At least that's the way I saw that. I don't know if I have more questions than that. I'm sure they'll come to me, but can you talk about what's different going on right now? It feels spicier than before.
Yeah, no, it's really as spicy. It's one of those things in which it's a major escalation than previously, because of the fact that you had the Coast Guard personnel, Chinese Coast Guard personnel, actually go beside the LST, the landing ship tank that's grounded at the shoal. Like they were feet away. So I mean, some of the video that you see on Instagram as well as Twitter and all them, you may see some like someone throwing water at them.
Yeah.
That's the personnel station on that ship throwing water at them.
Right.
That should give you an idea of how close they are. So
you dropped out briefly.
So potential for like escalation here seems pretty significant. Yes.
Yeah. No. It's it does. When did I drop out? So I can go. I guess go back and explain.
You just said something about like you throwing water, and then you said gives you an idea how close they are. I don't know if there was anything in between there.
No, it's like there wasn't really much. I was thinking about like how best I can frame it as, like, to give you like it's mere feet from the vessel. Like literally I could just, it's like almost stepping out of your out of a balcony and just getting a bucket of water and throwing it at like a pole or like at bushes.
And for context, like the Philippines consider that their territory. Like, yes.
Yeah, it's considered Philippine territory, not only by the Philippines themselves, but by under international law that China doesn't really care about.
But like if somebody went up to one of their man-made islands and said, well, this wasn't real before you said so, they would have a problem with that.
Oh yeah, they've always had that issue because multiple countries have brought it up. Even the UN said that these are not islands. They're not supporting people. Like, what do you mean? Like, these are islands. They we have like people there. No, you have military personnel there that require outside water sources and outside sustainment.
Well, so devil's
advocate.
Yeah. What's the difference between that and what the Philippines are doing with the sunken ship? The
difference
is internationally recognized?
No, not really. The mere fact is that they didn't really terraform anything. They just ran a boat aground. They just ran a vessel aground. Whereas the Chinese, they essentially built an island out of a reef.
Right.
So that's the major difference.
Given the U.S.'s relationship with the Philippines, is there any potential for U.S. involvement if this sort of thing continues? Do you think?
I mean, we have a mutual defense pact.
Yeah. No, I think. Excuse me. I think the Philippines wants the United States to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since now, considering that you have a Philippine frogman lose his thumb.
That's what happened. I saw that somebody got injured. That was what happened. Oh God.
Yeah. So he lost his thumb. Like, you can actually see when the guy in one of the videos, you can actually see when the guy lost his thumb, and like they were bandaging it up while the Chinese Coast Guard were like threatening him. And I think the Philippines, they want the United States to come in and actually help them. But the United States, it's on the United States really on how to best do that, because they understand that the United States understands that deploying Navy vessels or deploying, Coast Guard vessels is certainly an option. More so Coast Guard vessels. But they understand the deployment of those vessels will play into China's narrative, as you mentioned before, that, hey, the Chinese, the United States is actually increasing these tensions with the Philippines. Like, they're pushing to do this, when in fact, I mean, as you mentioned before, it's purely China. Like, China can edit the video all they want, do all these things with it. You could see, like, even Stevie Wonder can see that.
Blind, but yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So just a little side quest here. You mentioned manipulating video and things like that. With AI getting better and better and better, and we're seeing some of these state actors using AI to create propaganda online. What do you think the potential for that is going forward as regards China and using AI to do things, influence campaigns and things like that?
It's very likely. If they've already done it. They during I believe in March, April timeframe, they've released a transcript of a supposed conversation between the former now former Westcom commander who actually controls those, who has actual operational control of those resupply missions, and the Chinese embassy staff, where he essentially said, yeah, we agree with the new setup that we have, like that between China and the Philippines, saying that we will contact you 2 to 3 days before, and we only send one vessel to resupply the shoal, and we'll do all these things, and the chief of staff, all the military backs you. However, when you look at the cadence of that, and then also when you look at some of the wording, especially on the Chinese embassy staff side, it kind of makes you think that it's AI, just because of the fact that no Chinese embassy staff would ever use the Philippine word for the shoal itself. There will always...
Wouldn't they like check it? Like, you do that before you turn in your homework when you have AI, right?
No, you trust ChatGPT, dude. You just put it out there.
Yeah. Oh, some guy would get in trouble if you said that it was wrong, probably.
Probably.
Right. It was like, yeah, it's good to put out. Yeah, just go ahead.
GPT.
Right.
TM. We made it up.
Actually, China does have its own like CGTP.
Shut up.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
GPT.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I didn't expect that answer. I was like, oh, that's a good question, Alan. I didn't know this can go that far. So just, I mean, okay, I feel like we got to move past this, but like, if China's whole thing is we'll instigate to the point where we provoke someone to react and overreact so that we can justify what we want to begin doing. And that's like, they're like, we'll just play the long game with that, right? I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's Taiwan. That's what's going on here. That's, what happens when they don't want to, they get mad because the vessels go through the straits or things like that, right?
The
That's
South China Sea, the whole thing.
That's what they do with their airplanes. Like, tell me, that's it. Like, they instigate until someone overreacts so that they can justify the actions they want to do next, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like I don't know that I don't trust some, Philippine Coast Guard or resupply vessel to not be, maybe not the most disciplined person in the world to prevent World War III from starting.
Well, it's important to note that this specific mission was undertaken by the Philippine Navy. That's the reason why the Philippine flag with SEALs around there. They would be most associated with SEALs, or the U.S. analogs would be SEALs.
Okay.
Because
so in terms of discipline, don't worry about somebody overreacting, is what you're saying?
Yeah, not only that, but the Philippine Coast Guard in of itself is a highly disciplined organization. They understand.
I retract my disrespect and I apologize for it.
No worries. I mean, like they're not like their counterparts in the Chinese Coast Guard. They understand that like you have to operate within a certain set of rules.
Yeah, we don't want an international incident here.
Which, so speaking of international incident, it's funny because under international law, the Philippine Navy Philippine Navy personnel on that LST could have actually shot.
Oh my God!
Or raised their weapons at the Chinese Coast Guards.
Yeah, self-defense essentially.
So they had crossed the threshold where they were justified to use force, and we're fortunate that they didn't.
If they would have done, they were very close to it, and General Bronner, the Philippines Army Chief of Staff, or military chief of staff, actually pointed this out. Or actually, no, maybe the new Rescom commander. He actually pointed this out as saying that like we could have raised our weapons at them. We could have escalated this.
I see,
but we did not.
That was a conscious choice.
China to hear that, like,
exactly.
Okay,
what's that,
Alan?
Yeah, so that was a conscious choice. I mean, there was, they did that on purpose. Just from a U.S. foreign policy perspective, when shit kicked off in Israel, we immediately go park like an aircraft carrier over there, and we're like, Iran, fuck around and find out. Now I realize Iran and China are nowhere near analogs, but why would the U.S. not do that in this same situation?
Because the United States understands that anything that they do, anything it does or its allies do, China just looks at it and it's like, okay, cool. You can go do you could deploy your little vessels, you could deploy big vessels, you could deploy you could conduct these little maritime exercises in the South China Sea. We know ultimately it means nothing. And I say maritime exercises because the same day, the Philippine Coast Guard, the Japanese Coast Guard, and I believe the Canadian Coast Guard, it may have been the Navy, but I believe it was the Coast Guard, held a trilateral or a multilateral exercise in the South China Sea. So that was not only a major escalation on China's part, but also China saying, essentially, you can continue doing this. We don't care. You can continue those exercises.
So did they do that? Was that all was it coordinated? Like, it can't be a coincidence those things are happening at the same time.
I think it was.
Okay.
And my reasoning is based upon the fact that they chose that day. They could have chose a different day, the Philippine Navy.
Yeah.
But not only that, but the Philippine Navy understands that transparency needs to be is a major thing, which kind of made me a lot of other analysts like scratch our heads in the fact that no one's released footage of this, and that there was like no like play-by-play of the resupply run, like how the Coast Guard does it. And so that kind of led me to believe that originally that China actually boarded those vessels, in which it turned out that like that was correct. Like they boarded at least 2, and they confiscated weapons and destroyed 2 of the vessels,
the region. Yeah. That's crazy that they actually confiscated weapons and supplies. That's like next level shit right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, shall we move on?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about.
I feel like that was sort of timely. Like, I don't know when people will ever hear this, because something exactly like that's going to keep happening.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Not to be an alarmist, but it's certainly concerning.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the flooding in China, man. I mean, I've seen some of the video of that. I think we're up to more than 15 people have died and many people missing. We've got thousands and thousands of acres of farmland that are just destroyed. You got buildings that are like sinking. Can you fill us in on the situation there?
Yeah, so the flooding is mainly in like Guangdong, China, around that area, around like the Pearl River Valley region. So say this, but it's flooding to that extent is natural, even with the big Nine Gorges Dam. It's natural because of the fact because of that area's geography. You were talking about like high cliffs. We're talking about narrow valleys with rivers surrounded by high cliffs that just allows water just to gain momentum as it goes down. And so
if you were going to think about this again, you maybe wouldn't put a city in some of these places. Is that?
Yeah, essentially. I wouldn't build, a mega city in between on both sides of the river that cuts through it, but whatever. I'm not Chinese city planners.
It's funny because when people talk about the mistakes of like central planning, they talk about like the famines and things like that. I don't know. In the future, they're going to talk about all the cities that get destroyed with climate change, etc. I am distracting you from your point.
No, you're fine. I think one of the issues is that I think they will try to blame central planning for it in a way, but they would also try to blame this is China's natural weather, which it is to a certain extent, because that's yeah.
Well, it used to happen a lot more often, right? But since they built all the dams and they've done some infrastructure changes, it's less common now. But this is just a particularly bad year.
Yeah, it's been, off the top of my head, I want to say it's been a particularly bad couple of years, if not 3 years.
Okay.
Because you had flooding even in Guangzhou and the surrounding region, like where you had like cars being floated away in Guangzhou.
Yeah,
so it's
I
like,
saw some video.
yeah. So it's one of those things in which, it will be interesting to see how the central government will respond to that. Just because of the fact that I think he will respond by increasing building dams in the farthest regions of Sichuan province, around in the Tibetan areas, which that gives them a chance to not only continue to control the flooding problem, which can't really do. Not only that, but continue to subjugate the Tibetan populations in those areas as well.
And are they using those dams to generate power as well?
Oh yeah, they any dam that they would build,
it
has a secondary function.
Right. Okay.
They need it.
So right, they definitely do. So do you anticipate that there's going to be a fall guy and they're going to blame a local government official for this and just say it's not our bad, that dude did it, let's hang that dude, because that's typically kind of the response from the central government, right?
I think they will, if it gets really bad and there's like not a proper response.
Yeah.
Just like what happened in Henan in 2021, I believe. In the summer of 2021, you had some officials, provincial officials, step down or like be told it would be in your best interest to step down.
This is COVID issues, right?
No, this is flooding issues.
Oh, flooding issues. Okay.
Yeah,
because the same thing happened during COVID as well, though, right?
Yeah, this happened in this happened during the COVID pandemic, and it's funny because Henan province, when people used to think of flooding, back before the dams and everything started, people would automatically look at the Yellow River that flowed through Henan, because that's usually where the worst flooding occurred at. And so, and it's funny because they made a triumph of saying that we controlled the flooding. We finally were able to conquer the Yellow River. But, you had these massive floods that flooded, I believe, a significant portion of the province. I wouldn't say half, but I wouldn't be too surprised if it was. Where you had multiple people dying in in a tunnel and car tunnels. And yeah, it was pretty horrific, some of the footage that was managing to come out during that time. And, the party's reaction to that, or at least at the provincial level, was, it happens. We just need to control the weather better, or we just need to control the flooding better. And, the central government was like, you just need to respond.
Right.
Like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna make like a little quip, like, you need to respond, do something, not wait until we.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, people, you have to show face, right? Like, there has to be something, there has to be shown an effort. Like, I mean, do somethingism brings its own problems. So, maybe have restraint if you're going to make things worse, but you can't not do anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
What's the food security situation like with all this farmland being essentially, crops being destroyed? Is there potential for some issues there, or are they in good shape? Do they have plenty of stores?
They'll never have enough food.
Yeah.
Like, China has always been a food insecurity problem, even back during the dynasty era. era, they just never had enough food to feed its population. And that was whenever China's land wasn't as polluted as it is now. Have they made progress upon it? Of course. Like they've managed to clean up thousands of hectares of food of farmland. Not only that, but managed to convert a lot of the farmland that wasn't the most productive back to farmland or back to a forest that were converted during the Maoist era. But you kind of see this push from Xi now to take back that farmland or take back those forests, like go in and destroy all those, clear out the land, make it farming ready, regardless of whatever happens. And you've seen this push in 2023, last year. And a lot of people, thought it was a prelude to war. It's like, no, it's them understanding that, she needs to be prepared for, anything.
Right.
I mean, yeah, prelude to wars could be seen as that, but not really. It's not really the major thing. It is him trying to solve China's food insecurity. Because, like, take for instance, soybean. The world does not produce enough soybean to satisfy China's demand.
Okay.
The world?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Norm MacDonald over there. The world.
Okay.
Wow.
That seems problematic.
Now, what about pork bellies?
Pork belly, same thing. It could barely touch. It could barely touch it. During COVID, you've actually seen people forgo buying like other necessities like vegetables, soybeans, and soybean products, and other condiments and other items just to buy pork. That should give you an idea how much the Chinese like pork.
Pork and rice. That's what you need. That'll keep you strong. Okay. All right. So are they doing other things? I mean, obviously they're importing food as well from other countries.
I mean, yeah, like Peter Zion's the whole, like, they live at the end of the world's longest supply chains, right? Which explains how they're never going to have enough natural resources if they insist on needing that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've been trying to enact a lot of measures, as I mentioned previously, like the whole land reclamation, which, includes not only the previously forest, not forest, and now forest, and then translating it to remaking it into farmland again. But they're also going through and like tearing up parks. They're transitioning other like orchards and other farms that grows like apples, plums, peppercorns if you live in Sichuan, and other regional products of plant-based products into producing wheat or barley. And the people have actually fought back against it to some extent, but the Chinese made the new Nongchang, which is a play on the housing authorities or the street stalls authorities.
Yeah, I forgot that word. I learned that word like 6 months, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just to enforce those measures. Now, another thing is that going back to like pigs and farm animals, they've been experimenting for I believe a year now with skyscraper farming. Yeah. So what I mean is that take like a 12-story building, and instead of people or like offices or anything like that, change that into like a feedlot like environment.
That's crazy.
The ammonia smell.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But I mean, they do have plenty of buildings that are unused. So I guess
right. I'm like, well, I mean, that's a valid plan, but
yeah.
Hey, the city didn't turn out. But can we get a train full of pigs there? Like, yeah.
Right. Right. I was like, I get this. But my guys, like, there's like there's you can cause a lot of health issues with those animals. Not that
Yeah.
That's gonna be fucking horrific, man.
Yeah, imagine
That's
the
the next
pandemic coming out of that
Yep,
building.
yep. All new kinds of pig flus.
Right. How did this pig flu happen?
Points to random building in
got like
China.
15-story condo building just full of just
with
pigs.
an ammonia moat around it. Pig piss.
Right. It's like,
God.
I mean, that's
like,
literally
oh my
what
God.
they do now is these pigs live their life in a stall without moving, basically.
Right.
Just getting fed and pissing and shitting on the floor. And they have that they have that piped to dump, like this happens in America. And they have that piped to bring the pig urine, and then they spray it out into a lake like 1,000 yards away from the property. And there's just these ammonia lakes. So like they're just gonna have chutes in the floor in this China building, right? Like
I hope so, man.
China building.
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
Go
if you've ever driven by like one of these major like factory, like turkey or even beef production plants, it's absolutely horrific. Just the smell is just like hits you like a wall. I can only imagine.
Wait till you work on one of the meat saws, man. That's
oh God.
Can I ask you a question about has there been any change in preparation towards Taiwan? Sorry. Well, no, Taiwan. From East Taiwan.
No, there hasn't been really much preparation on that front.
That's what you said. I feel like I should know this, but I one of my big takeaways from last time talking with you was like, look, we're right to be concerned about it, but we're gonna know a mile away because there's only a few different places where they would mount that kind of an offensive from, and they're remote, and it would take like we would see the troop carrying the build up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we haven't really seen that. I mean, like most people, draw, the food, increase emphasis on food production,
Like
and then also like, and the increased emphasis on importing gold, things such as that. But it's like I point out, like
that's just preparing for deglobalization.
Essentially, not only that, but regarding the gold, it is one of the few liquidity items that the Chinese population has access to.
Yeah.
That allows it to grow. Because you can't really do that with saving accounts.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah, The Economist had a whole piece a couple weeks ago about Chinese population buying these little like ingots of gold because it was relatively affordable, put away a few percentage, a way to get some savings. And I mean, typically before this, the housing market was like the biggest investment, but that's the floor's fallen out of that. So that's sort of a way for people to park some money safely, right?
Yeah. I don't know. The funny thing that you bring up, Alan, is that the housing market has not like fallen away yet.
Okay. It hasn't. Okay.
So we did not touch anything there. It's still just it's like that dam upriver where everything's flooding and it's still
right. It's still holding.
It's still holding. Yeah, it hasn't reached rock bottom yet. A lot of economists say, yeah, it's going to reach rock bottom soon. Like, when? We didn't see it in Evergrande, but when? So when? But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, like, it's because they see gold as a worthwhile investment instead of
hold its value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Increase.
Well, and well, one, they're correct to think that like that is a better idea than the housing. I can't wait to see how they fuck up the gold market where they try and do with housing. But when you look at the amount that they have percentage wise, because people talk about how they're like stockpiling gold, basically, it's like, yeah, don't compare that to America's stockpile though. So like, it's nothing. It's still insignificant.
Are you talking about the Chinese government or Chinese?
Well, the Chinese government, but I mean, it sounds like if they're bringing gold in, I mean, how did America get its gold reserve, Alan? They took it from the citizens. They said, we're having all your gold now. And like, sorry, if FDR can do that, I'm going to put it out there that, Xi Jinping might.
It's fair.
Did I just stumble upon something? Are people saying this? So basically, they're increasing the demand amongst the population so that they can bring the gold into the country in addition to their way of bringing gold in, and then they can just confiscate it.
It's one of those things in which
Give
it
them
could
brick
be.
bucks. Okay, I'm done interrupting, please.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
And give them bricks bucks.
Oh, God!
Hold back.
It probably would probably be as worthless as like toilet paper. But actually, no.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to ruin the global gold market.
by God, I hope not.
Some guys in like Venezuela or whoever just joined BRICS is going to be like, well, I start with like 10 billion yen or whatever this BRICS bucks is. Yen. Good God. I do actually know the words I meant to say.
I hope not, because that would be a hellscape. Oh my God.
Catastrophic.
We're gonna say
it
something.
would be. No, there is a possibility of that happening, but the economy in the Chinese society would have to get so bad that Xi Jinping would have to view this as the only viable option left. But there is another possibility that he would essentially not do that and just kick the can down the road, which is essentially what he's doing with the economic crisis that currently is going on with China.
Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't the economy like the economy is their biggest hold on power? Like if he can't manage the economy, if he can't rise the tide of your average Chinese citizen's life economically, isn't that potentially an existential risk for that regime?
Yeah. It's you have to understand is that the CCP's relationship between it and the Chinese people, not necessarily the state, because the state is controlled by the CCP,
right?
Is based upon a social contract of unwritten social contract of, hey, we'll make you rich, we'll make a middle class out of you, we'll give you the Chinese dream, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
If you just leave democracy and freedom and all that capitalist Western bullshit alone, don't even bring it up,
right?
And we'll be fine. You just let us do what we want to go do with the Uyghurs and Tibetans. We'll go rape and forcefully assimilate them. Don't complain, and we'll make you middle class. Now
go to university, get a job. You're going to be fine. Just ignore everything else.
Exactly.
Move out to the country, to an empty city.
Exactly. But there's been a fraying of this contract, and it accelerated during the pandemic in China, in which you now see that possibility of them being a middle class and them being able to make living a semblance of a good life, slowly but surely going away, if not impossible already. And so that's why Xi Jinping has been relying on the fact that we're Han. We're the Middle Kingdom's people. We're the messengers of God, if you will. We are the celestial link. And so that allowed him to kind of create some buy-in from the Chinese population. Not much, because at the end of the day, they don't really care if they're Han or not, as long as they get fed.
Right.
Right.
That sounds an awful lot like the divine right of kings.
I mean, it does, yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things in which to understand that, you have to understand China's viewpoint upon this. Why it's called the Middle Kingdom. You have to look at during the dynasty era how each dynasty believed they had the mandate of heaven, saying that the heavens mandated me and my seed that I propagate to control China, because we are the linkage between the barbarians, and the celestial realm. Now, every time stuff happens, like flooding, earthquakes, social unrest, like riots, protest, a lot of people view this as, a lot of historians and a lot of people within China view this as them losing that mandate of heaven. And so a lot of people, especially amongst China scholars, they're now questioning themselves that has China or has the CCP lost its mandate, quote unquote, in which I think it has in some aspects, because now they can't really rely on the whole "we'll make you rich" scheme. Then not only that, but they've shown, especially Xi, shown that he's inept at controlling government. And not only that, his response is to not only try to resolve it by, allowing the technocrats to do their jobs, by promoting technocrats. And when I mean technocrats, I mean people who are actually proficient at their jobs.
Right.
But promoting people who are yes man. They're say, yep, that sounds good. Let's do that. And also increasing control over the Chinese population in all aspects.
I feel like across the globe, he isn't seen as someone who's failing at controlling government. What are some ways that you feel comfortable saying that? I don't think it looks like things are going well there, but things seem to be working out for China. So I don't think that is
No. I think the way that she's handling the economy is one of his major failure points. There is a way to fix it, but he chooses not to.
I see.
He willingly chooses not to.
Right.
Not only that, but how he essentially threw a temper tantrum. I don't know if I mentioned this before whenever I first came on. He essentially threw a temper tantrum to during the white paper protest, and said, if you people don't like me protecting you guys from the COVID, that's fine, get it. He just essentially went from like 60 all the way to 0 controls,
right,
in a matter of a day, in which that led to increased strains on the economy and then also society.
Right.
Yeah, people screaming in their apartments.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit more about Xi. So the dude's 71 years old. And one of the often Achilles heels of authoritarian regimes is there isn't much of a succession plan. Let's say something were to happen to him health-wise, next few years, something like that. What do you think that looks like? The power vacuum, the impact on society? Does this thing come apart at the seams? What do you think we're looking at?
That's a very valid point. A very valid question. It would be extremely messy, any type of succession, because all you have are yes men, and there doesn't appear to be any Deng Xiaoping type figures,
right,
that are willing to stand up to Xi, even during his final days, or if he dies abruptly in the aftermath, to say that we need to stop this, guys. This is going to end up killing us all, and I like where my head is. There's no one out there, or at least none that I could see, that are actually wanting to do that, or at least they're so hidden behind the remnants of the factions that exist within the Communist Party, and then also the former officials who actively try to guide communist policy. You can't really see them,
and this is all strategically on his part, that's the situation, right? So
yes,
by the right
so
people.
He can consolidate power. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's interesting you mentioned you like where your head's at. recently read a book which in part covers a lot of the French Revolution, and it seems like there's some obvious parallels here to power vacuums and revolutions.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be really horrific. And I certainly don't want to see people suffer.
Or best case scenario, after the death of Stalin, right? Like where it's just
sure.
I think the best case scenario is that someone, they did they did a Luke Skywalker. They hid this guy really well. They had an Obi-Wan Kenobi and a Yoda, say, what, take him to Tatooine, aka, Xinjiang or Tibet, and hide him.
His sister.
Right? It could, it's the city, the towns could be so remote that, Alabama's an option, whatever.
No, he's in Hong Kong, or it's fine. You could just that's
where that's a great movie.
It would be. It's almost like we've seen this before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they did a good job at hiding him from Xi's little, finding him. And at the aftermath of Xi's death, and they're able to take control of the government and rid it of all prime mover, or of all people who would espouse Xi's logic or use chat or Xi GDP to use it. They would have to install him quick, because the economic damage alone. Well, let me back up. The social economic damages alone within China would be so immense that it would not have been seen ever. Even during the aftermath of Mao's death, we could probably take some parallels or takeaways from it, but not really, because back then China was a backwater.
Right.
Now it's like one of the an economic powerhouse, or in some aspects. And just those effects domestically would be so immense that we would have to question ourselves. We would have, not only the United States, but the international community, is that will we have to go into China to secure the nuclear weapons and to make sure that any fragmentation that may occur, I would not be too surprised if fragmentation occurs. Not only that, but the global economic, but we will more likely see a mass migration of Chinese people.
Jesus.
Not only from across to Taiwan, but into Mongolia, Myanmar, Southeast Asia, things as that.
Yeah, Malaysia.
Not only that, but the wealth as well. And then globally, I say, the economic effect will be so profound that it will cause an economic disaster at the bare minimum, maybe along the same lines as the 2008 Great Recession.
Yeah, I could see that.
So when you first started pitching this scenario, I'm like, okay, yeah, but this is best case scenario where there's, this is never going to happen, is my thought halfway through you saying this. And then I'm reminded of all through history where when emperors, or like pharaohs, for instance, attach themselves to the divine descendants from, the sun god or whatever. I think Ramses III got murdered by like a conspiracy plot within his own court, or whatever that was called under the Egyptians. It's actually the fact that he's tied himself to the celestial essence, and if the gods suddenly appear to, I hate to talk about China like this, like I'm being ignorant, but like if he's tying himself to that, wouldn't people be natural to say, I'm not seeing the God liking you anymore, we need to change this? Is that really far-fetched?
No, it's not too far-fetched. But you also have to understand is that when those people do this, it is within a small group of people who they trust absolutely.
It's like 10 people the kid killed Ramses III.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Caesar.
Yeah, exactly. Or Caesar. People who are massively unpopular, but they have power through other means. In which he controls the state, he controls the PLA, the PAP, and a large element of the CCP because of Yes Man.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the factions or elements who are against him, to varying degrees, they know they have to step on their tippy toes because of the fact that, hey, we've seen what they did. We've seen how she treated Hu Jintao during the last during the last two sessions in 2023.
Right? The guy that was asked politely to leave.
Yes.
Well, he was. I wouldn't be
escorted out.
It was
I
like
would say
time that my Miller Lite slipped out of my hands at the club, and they told me I didn't have a choice. I was like, you don't understand. It was condensation. It's humid out.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can stay, but we'll carry you out. I mean,
right.
Either or.
Right.
The chair has arms.
Yeah, like we can carry you out if you want. And it was funny because a lot of the China analysts and a lot of the other China readers, they viewed it, well, we can't really see why she would do this, but I'm like, but I just thought this is him saying that I'm in control now.
Yeah.
The communists usually
message was clear. Yeah. And since then it's been evident. That was very strategic moment. And you could tell by the way he managed it when it happened, that wasn't a surprise to him.
No. I wouldn't be too surprised if that was his doing.
Oh yeah.
Calculated, right?
It appeared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Something we haven't talked about yet is sort of the surveillance state that's been created in China, is essentially a panopticon, and just the power that gives him as well, in addition to all of the other levers of power he has at his disposal. I mean, there's been nothing like that in history, really.
No, there haven't. I think regarding that would be. I think regarding that, we need to understand one thing about that is the surveillance state that China constructed fits a multitude of purposes. The first purpose is to control its population, but then also economically, then also societal, but then also the controlling of the minorities. Because people often think that China only has like two minorities, so Tibetan and Uyghurs, but no, they have 56 recognized and several others that are unrecognized. And so regarding control of society, I mean, it's tied into security because people who are able to control their society, as China's found out, are able to mold them a certain way. That's why the whole Great Firewall exists, Dilian exists, and then also now the surveillance state. Now, what their surveillance state is that it's kind of mishmash because you have it done at the provincial level, in which multiple provinces say, "Hey, like we want to set up our own, little, surveillance state to be able to, track our people, be able to show their social credit score, things like that."
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it met with varying degrees of success and failure both sides. For the most part, it's been an effort. Nationally, though, they were more successful. Because they have more resources. And so that allowed them to control economically, meaning that if you do something bad enough to where your social credit score goes down, or like you're do something bad, criminally, then automatically your bank accounts, saving accounts, things like that, or your assets get flagged. So you can't really touch those.
Mhm.
And then for ethnic control, a lot of people think it's only limited to Uyghurs and the Tibetans, the whole increase. They were most certainly test beds, but they expanded it to other ones, such as the Zhang in southern China, the Manchu and Mongolians in northern and central China as well. The Hui, the other major Muslim group in China, and on the other various hill tribes, if you will, that are also located in southern China. They also push that surveillance apparatus upon them because they understand that these have a separate identity than the Han.
Right.
Basically, non-Hans are all potentially in that.
Yeah. That's not a fun situation to be in if you're not a Han.
Yeah. Like, even in foreigners, like, I wouldn't be too surprised if some version of the surveillance state, minus the social credit score, minus, the economic stuff, exists for foreigners who visit China in whatever capacity. To pull up a bio, things this is that. And I based it upon my previous travels to China and what they asked for a visa. And then not only that, but also just my travels within China itself during the years as well.
Right. You mentioned foreigners. China famously has like nearly zero immigration. With their demographics sort of collapsing, do you anticipate them changing that in any way in the near future?
They tried. Yeah, they came out with increased ways for foreign citizens to get residency cards, and then not only that, but potentially become citizens of China. But very few people have took it.
Interest, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the number, but I would not be too surprised since its inception in 2019 or 2020. It's been less than 300, maybe.
Yeah, not
And
a lot of
that's me
people
being
taking them up
generous.
on the offer there.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
me being generous too. It's
Right,
like it's not an attractive place to live. I mean, like the whole societal control. Not only that, but the xenophobia that exists within Chinese society. It just makes it, kind of unwelcoming. It's funny. Go ahead.
So you talk about the xenophobia within China itself, and then imagine if you're not even from there.
Right.
That's got to be a whole other level.
Oh man, like if you're Black or African, if you're African American or Black or African, you will get looked at so many ways and get treated like some type of pet or zoo animal. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
And people, when I describe it as that, it's like, oh, you're being racist, Sino talk or Joaquin. It's like, no, I've actually seen it in a lifetime. Like I actually had to pull people out of like the crowds of people like swarming people.
Oh wow.
And so this is like anywhere. This isn't just like something about like rural people.
No, it's really anywhere. It could happen just about anywhere. Usually the people who react are more, from the rural areas because China pays to send groups of rural people to like Shanghai or Chongqing, Tianjin, but you also get
happen to you anywhere because they're sending people around.
Right. Yeah, it can happen to you anywhere, but you also see an equal amount of people that actually live in Shanghai. They've seen a Black person, but it's like I've never seen this Black person.
Right. Yeah. This guy in particular right here. Let's go let's go look at this one. Yeah. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about the Xi's multipolar world and all of the splendid outreach programs that are going on. I don't know, outreach, whatever. So other players in this game are Putin and Kim, and they just had their meeting. Is that off your desk? Is that kind of? I mean, you must have had some focus on that. I'll admit I have been off the grid quite a bit lately with work and the honeymoon. So forgive me if I've ignored a post of yours about this, but just one thing that I want to address and then talk about that as much as you can. You saw the plane flight that like went directly around China conveniently, right? Was there really concern that Putin would get his plane shot down if he went over China?
No, I think the reason why is because he's very paranoid at this point. He doesn't trust really anyone, especially after I forgot whenever Ragnar decided to say we don't like you anymore.
Right.
So we're gonna
The
take
march
over.
on Moscow that ended. Yes.
Yeah, like during that time, which is sad to me. I'm like, dude, you could have just ended it. You could have just not
Right.
one 9mm to the one 9mm bullet to the head of each little Putin and his little cronies could end this all. Or not crony, but clones.
I mean, that was certainly the closest that it looked like it could have ever happened.
Yeah.
We knew it was.
We were kind of rooting for it.
Yeah.
Right, I was too. I was like,
yeah,
do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Continue.
Yeah.
And I think that's Putin's showing that he doesn't really trust anyone, especially with Xi.
Yeah, so he worries about his plane when he flies over Chinese airspace. I mean, China sends commercial flights over Russian airspace.
Yeah. It was the one where it was kind of interesting because it was kind of interesting because China will do this, they'll cross where they please. But it's funny because you had China or you had the Russian president to say absolutely not, we're going to take a long way. They took that big old loop.
Yeah, exactly. So what did you make of that visit? Like what it's his first time there since 2004. Is he just checking in on his arms supplier?
So go ahead.
I don't know. I was thinking about other munitions and things going. I have a question later on about those cute little golf carts in Ukraine, but save that for now. That's when we get back to China. But yeah, what do you think that visit to North Korea?
It was one of those things in which it was Putin trying to develop his own version of the. I guess you can't call it the Russian war review or Russian war, whatever they want to call it. Because Koreans are most certainly not Russian, but I think it's him trying to develop or trying to maintain his relationship with Kim Jong-un in North Korea to be able to provide some sort of economic relief to Russia, no matter how little it is, but then also to get access to even more firearm or military equipment, like as you mentioned. And I think those are the two main ones. And then not only that, but to allow, he could have possibly made some help or possibly made some negotiations on China's behalf on allowing Coast Guard vessels to travel down the Tumen River to allow it to, go into the Sea of Japan, which I kind of doubt. I haven't checked depth haven't really checked the depth and the width of the river to
What's
see.
the deal there?
Well, there's been a lot of talk that China, that the Chinese Coast Guard wants to be able to send their vessels down the Tumen River, so they're able to essentially bypass the Korean Peninsula and go into the Sea of Japan.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is because they can protect Chinese commerce, because they go wherever Chinese maritime shipping goes,
right?
Essentially,
yeah.
And my rationale behind, China and North Korea allows it to their border with Russia. Anything beyond that, they can't go down. They have to like do magic or something like that because like they can't turn around.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so I suspect there were some negotiations on allowing that to happen, but personally, I don't see that occurring because one, that would further aggravate tensions with Japan.
Right.
At a time when they don't want to.
When China doesn't want to, certainly yet, right?
Yeah, like China or Russia. Exactly. North Koreans don't really care. They're like, whatever, they're Japanese. We don't care what they do.
Would China really need Russia to intercede on their behalf in something with North Korea, or is it just that because Russia and North Korea both would be involved in allowing that to happen? Or because it seems to me like China pretty much does what they want. I mean, North Korea is nearly a vassal state, or is my impression wrong about that?
So with that, it's almost like a good neighbor aspect, saying that, hey, I mean, we want to cross, we're not doing it, this is from China's side, is that we're not doing it because we want to allow both of you guys to say, okay, because like you pointed out that, they can cross at any time. Neither side would do anything. Like Russia wouldn't do anything because they likely don't have the capability to do it. And then also North Korea doesn't because they need China to survive. And so I think one of the big things with that is that it's essentially a show to say that, hey, all three of us are in somewhat of an alliance, even if it's not in name only, even if it's not in name, that we're allied to each other.
Got it.
And so that's why they would do it. But yeah.
It still seems like a weird trip. And then he went to Vietnam, because Vietnam invited him to come over there, right? It's weird. That's weird to me that Putin went Korea, Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Vietnam invited him first, and then North Korea, and then he decided to visit North Korea because, he had to go visit his weapons supplier.
Sure. Plus it's on the way.
Yeah. It's a simple flight. They probably also had to refuel for so.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Sure. Well, let's talk about Ukraine. So back to China a little bit. What's with these cute little golf carts and like motorcycles that I keep seeing Russians go out into like forward positions in?
China desperation, or not China's desperation, Russian desperation at this point. A lot of people like to say that Russia has rebased their manufacturing capacity or base, but when you see Russian soldiers using mopeds and motorcycles,
they look like golf carts and they look like e-bikes.
Yeah, it's like when you see that in real time as the drones kill them,
you feel bad for the people.
You really do. I mean, you really do on some aspects, but on some levels, as you say. But then on others, like you could very easily end this by walking home.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Like you're going to die going out there on this golf cart. You're gonna, or take your chances with what they're gonna do to you if you walk. Yeah,
you deserve.
Yeah. Exactly. And then not only that, but it also proves a point of Russia not having the manufacturing capacity to produce adequate transportation means to cross that. Right. Because if I was a Russian soldier, I would rather drive in a BMP, a T-34, a BT-32, I believe, something that has armor instead of a golf cart.
So does it have to do with does it have to do with intimidation and what those people will face if they desert, or does it have to do with the people that are being put into that situation that maybe think that golf cart's the coolest thing they've ever seen? Like, are these conscripts from like complete rural Russia? We know that's part of his tactic. They're not taking people out of Moscow and putting them there.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both, really. Is that you have people who honestly believe, the Russian propaganda were denazifying Ukraine, even though you've seen swastikas, the wolf wound and other Nazi symbols uh, with the Russian soldiers. And so it's a total buy-in on them. But then also with that, I think one of the bigger things. Wait 1 second.
Sure. Alan, I think we'll ask the scientific superpower question next. Is that good?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's on the part of China's, or at least not China, but Russia's tactic of using its undesirables, I guess. Best way to put it. I know that sounds horrible.
Well, it's solving a problem for them at the same time, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Like it is not a coincidence that you see a lot of Chinese or Russian minorities going out into being fed into this meat grinder. It's not,
right?
Including the Chechens. It's not a. It's not a. It's there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Not in that
case.
Case.
They're removing it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you see Russia actively recruiting Cubans, Central Asians, Africans, Syrians, Indians, Sri Lankans, essentially anyone besides, as you mentioned, those people from Moscow.
Yeah.
Until recently. And there's a reason for that, because they don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, Prigozhin isn't around anymore, but another thing that you might add is you don't want to get your skull crushed by a sledgehammer if you desert the front lines, right?
Which was always the demonstration and threat.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I sent you a meme. It was like a meme deck. And admittedly, it's from the person in a group chat I'm in that's always talking about MAGA communism being real and all kinds of things like that. So I looked at this with a bit of skepticism, but curiosity. The headline was China is a scientific superpower. And then I had a bunch of charts and data. I noticed that they made the graphs line up, but the scale was different when it compared China to the US. Just saying. But what did you make of that? I sometimes I don't like to read things and I make Alan explain it to me. I'm kind of doing that with you right now.
So with that, I mean, it's from a recent economics article about how China is becoming a scientist powerhouse. I don't necessarily buy into that, because a lot of their scientific achievements are through theft.
Yeah, just like all I mean, Peter Zion makes a point towards the end of the world is just the beginning, where he says, like, China doesn't make anything. Like, there isn't a thing that they make. And you can't say that to someone without them being like, excuse me, I'm pretty sure everything I buy is made in China. But I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, right? Like, they steal things and then they knock it off. And
they didn't invent it. They
Soviet space shuttles, right? Like,
exactly. I would say this is that Peter Zahan's quote is that they don't make almost anything. Yeah. They prove that they can innovate when they put their minds to it. But from my perspective, it's kind of hard to innovate within a communist society, because there's no win for them. There's no buy-in.
Right. There's no churn also. Like, there's no this is failing, so these more successful entities will take over.
Exactly.
Right.
And not only that, but with a lot of those, and I noticed this about reading one of the tweets, is that they point out, oh well, China's China's not referencing, I believe, Western scientists as often, or maybe the other way around. But I just thought to myself, well, I mean, there's a reason for that. It's because a lot of those papers are not really accessible. Not only that, but they're probably not really basing it off of anything new and innovative.
And it can't break a certain mold, right? Like you still have to be careful how you step, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that perplex a lot of people. When
Well, I
I
mean,
pointed out, go ahead.
it takes a maverick to innovate, right? And you definitely that sort of innovation is not encouraged in that system.
Yeah, yeah. She showed how he awards innovation and how he treated the now former Alibaba CEO and now
Right,
Japanese professor.
right, right, right.
That was, I forgot his name. I see his funny looking face. It's
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things in which like you're not helping anyone, dude. Like you're crushing innovation, in which it's funny because like he asked business leaders point blank during a recent meeting, is like, why can't we innovate, guys? If no one said anything, but it's kind of like
The meme where they throw the guy out the building.
Right.
yeah, exactly. It's like it's because of you.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Alan, you
I,
want to hit on some of these?
yeah, we just got a couple more kind of serious questions, then we'll do some fun stuff here. So we already hit a little bit about what China is doing to sort of reclaim farmland and things like that. But I just saw an article, I think it was Reuters, talking about how BRICS countries, their carbon emissions are just soaring crazy through the roof. Um, what are they doing as far as environment and climate wise? Obviously, it feels like the regime does understand that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. Are they, in your opinion, moving in the right direction there, or what do you think?
It depends. Some countries like India and Brazil, they understand that the economy is needed, or the climate change needs to happen on some level, but they also understand that and use this argument that the West didn't need to acclimatize whenever they were industrializing, so why do we?
Right.
Neglecting the fact that we industrialized during a 100-year time span between the 1800s and 1900s. And so they kind of see it as a prerogative, but then also something that's not as important as economic growth. And as BRICS or Chinese aligned countries grow, you'll more likely see that aspect. You like to see them adapting that aspect in some form, because they can use it to say, "Hey, you need to adapt your stuff. France, Britain, United States. We don't have to because we're industrializing." Even though they're like essentially destroying the ozone as they say that.
Right. Right. Speaking of BRICS, Malaysia wants to join. Is BRICS becoming a viable economic bloc?
I don't think so, because whenever I hear economic bloc, I think of countries who are able to bring stuff to the table,
Right.
in terms of being able to prop up the organization.
They all have like shared burdens.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say shared burdens, because at this point, it looks like China would be sharing the most.
Yeah, shared wasn't the right way. It's like they each bring their own separate burden that none of them had to deal with separately.
They bring liabilities to the party, not assets.
Yes, yeah, exactly. They're like the Captain Planet of like all of our. But if we all show up, it becomes BRICS.
Exactly. You're talking about countries who first joined that or want to join.
Sense initially.
No, it didn't make any rational sense.
Okay, I mean, it made like I get why all of you, well, aside from them in India, but like once they start talking to like Iran and like South American countries, I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah,
It's essentially them trying to create buy-in in the global South, but while that does happen to some extent, you have to understand that a lot of those countries that are trying to join based on some perceived or anticipated economic benefit. In which I don't really see that happening because, you have these countries who they have burdens. They're not really based upon anything, like their economies are not really strong. They're still export economies at the end of the day, especially oil. You kind of paint a picture of them not being able to hold their own and not able to bring much to the table.
yeah.
And so I think whenever people say about BRICS, BRICS is going to be the future, or United States, the USD is going to go down. That's like no, not really. I mean, like the yuan isn't going to be. It's not going to overtake it overnight. And then two, the United States, the US dollar is actually backed up by something.
Can you? This might be a complete diversion, and if you want to finish something you're thinking of, I'm afraid I'll forget. Can you explain to me the whole two currencies in China? There's like the internal, and then like there's yuan and something with an R.
Renminbi.
Yeah. Is that significant? That feels odd to me, but is it just a thing, and I just can move on and accept that it exists?
No, it's one of those things in which the yuan and renminbi are the same.
Okay.
So it's one of those.
It's literally just two words for the same thing. I thought there was like a distinction between who can use the currencies with different names.
No, there's whenever you talk about renminbi, that's the actual name of the money.
Oh.
Whereas yuan is like the cents. It's like, hey, I have like 12 cents or $12.
Oh, god damn it. Okay, well, I'm not
You
gonna
can use interchangeably.
Understood.
All right.
Understood. All right, we got one more serious question here. Moving away from China, Modi recently won re-election, although he didn't win the majority. So he's going to have to create a coalition government. I know you cover India as well. What are your thoughts on that and where their political climate is going?
It's just a continuation of whatever Modi wants. Of course, he's going to have friends. But the coalition that he's going to probably build will be with political parties that are strongly aligned with the BJP's goals and outlooks.
But he looked so sad when he won.
Well, he predicted like a landslide, and then it didn't happen.
That's why he was sad, because like, you're supposed to vote for me.
Yeah.
I thought I rigged this thing properly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? Like, this is the reason why I jailed that dude for corruption, even though he was corrupt.
It's so weird. Like, I thought we hated Muslims. Okay, I guess it won't be.
We're all on board here.
Like, yeah.
All right, I got some fun. We got some fun ones for you. Have you seen Three Body Problem on Netflix, and did you like it? What do you think?
Best possible answer right now is you just be like, no. Like, all right.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say like it had pretty like graphics, but I mean, I didn't really like it because it was oversimplifying the story.
Mm-hmm.
Have
you read the books?
Yeah, I read all three.
Okay.
And so that's the reason why I say like they oversimplified the story and actually messed
like in
them
terms
up.
of like glossing over what the significance of the three body problem is and just being like everybody will get this. Like, did that take longer in the book, or you mean like the rest of the story arcs and all of that as well?
It's a combination of both. Like the rest, like the whole thing about the three body problems that this guy was able to travel throughout different places within time, and not only that, but able to stop the invasion before it happens.
All right, stop it.
Yeah. Like,
spoiler alerts.
Yeah,
stop. Oh, my bad.
No, we're good. We're good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That show's been out for a while. If they haven't seen it,
Well, did that end the first season?
no.
Okay. Okay. All
That
right.
hasn't happened
You
yet.
know, I'm gonna write this time down. I will
Wait,
see one
wait,
audio edit.
Wait, it's not a movie. It's not like an entire movie.
No, it's a series.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
season 1 ended before what you just said.
Oh shit!
No worries.
Well, I mean, my argument still stands. I mean, they took
I get
stuff from like all 3 books and like just created that pile, and I'm like,
I see.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I've
did
heard,
this-
what you're describing is evident that that's the attempt to happen. You know,
I've
well,
heard,
that's gonna happen in the first one. It's the white guy, right?
yeah, I believe so. The old white guy, like
Yeah.
Sam Pauly from like GOT.
All right, it's just me and you talking right now. Is he gonna save the whole thing? Is it gonna? No,
Oh,
you know what? Don't.
don't do it. Don't do it.
Spoiler alert!
No, please don't. No. All right, so mixed reviews on 3 Body Problem. Alan, you asked the next one. I'll ask.
Do you have a favorite Chinese food?
I just came back from New York and did not have any American Chinese food the whole time I was in New York. I fucked up.
Oh, dude, there's so many great Chinese restaurants that are there. Oh, but you should have went.
Yeah, you should have.
Oh my god.
Well, we can't risk it and have pork, and that shows up in like how things are cooked.
Yeah, because Natasha.
Yeah.
No, what's your go-to order though?
Oh, it would depend. Like if it's at a restaurant that I know has it or it would be Zhajiangmian. It's a soybean paste, noodles with soybean paste with pork, and it comes with like dry and like wet varieties. It's so good.
I haven't heard of this. All right, is it like fermented soy paste or is it?
It's fermented. It's fermented. It's like a black, dude. It is like it comes with like carrots and celery, I believe, or not celery, but cucumbers.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you're living in China, you could toss that to the side. I mean, I don't trust vegetables in China.
Is it spicy at all or no?
No, it's not really spicy. Some varieties are, like if you go down to Sichuan and try and order it, it will have some spice because it's Sichuan. They love their spice.
Mm-hmm.
And but another one would be, I know this is gonna sound extremely fat at me. It's gonna sound really bad.
Do tell.
But Kaoyao roasted duck, Beijing style roasted duck, not the Shanghai, not the abomination that Shanghai makes.
Good to know. Is this Beijing roasted duck or Shanghai roasted duck?
Oh, it's Beijing.
That's what I want to ask.
Beijing. Mm-hmm.
How did you pronounce the first one again?
Zhajiangmian. Let me. Yeah.
Okay.
And describe what it looks like.
Oh, dude, there's like 2 different ones. Like, the wet variety is the wet variety is like here, I'm about to drop the spelling in the chat.
Okay.
But the wet one would be like a sauce, like an actual sauce.
Okay.
Like it would have like you could tell like it's a soybean paste or a sauce. And the wet variety is and the dry variety is one where they get all the pork and all the big pieces of like onion, I think celery, and I think some carrots, and they strain it out from the paste after they cook it, and they serve it to you.
I'm looking.
And they actually put it in the noodles.
This looks
amazing. And it's, dude, it is really good. Dude, it is like every time I go to China, I would say like, yeah, let's go to Zhajiangmian. Like that's all you want. Like, yes.
That's so awesome, dude. I live near. I'm in the Bay Area, so I have Chinatown in Oakland. I have Chinatown in San Francisco. I can't wait, dude, because I've never even heard of that. So
yeah.
Oh, dude, you're gonna love it, dude. off topic, another thing that I do like, if you can get it, is Tibetan food of any kind, and also Uyghur food.
I like Tibetan food.
It's very good. Every time I would go to like Shanghai, there was like a little special restaurant, in like one of the outdoor malls or outdoor like shopping centers that they have. Produce some of the best food ever.
Cool.
Nice.
And it's ran by Zhajiangmian without pork, or is it like it has to have pork to be legit?
No, there's halal varieties.
All right, cool.
You just have to find the restaurant that's.
Natasha's cooking right now, and I can smell it through the fucking vents. We have to end soon. I did want to ask
getting hungry out here.
Yeah, we did. I did want to ask you another question about book recommendations. You read any good books? You can think of more than one. It sucks to think like only this one. You could give us a couple if you have any.
I think one thing would be Potter's, since we kind of talked about deterrence in the first one, would be Potter's book. Let me find it so I can drop it in the chat.
Delicious Xi Jinping wine, sponsor of our today's show. Red wine in a Pooh Bear mug.
It's made with the blood of minorities.
Oh man, that is just a teddy bear glass. You should not drink wine in this manner. Literally has like threading on it for a cap. This is there we go.
Boiling Moat. Okay.
That's a good one to read. I mean, it recently came out, I believe.
I like the title.
Yeah. I mean, I like his book because his partner, he doesn't come off as pretentious as L.A. Kobe with his book about strategy with strategy deterrence, and he actually goes into specifics about the deterrence and how the United States can do it. Whereas, Kobe was like, "Yeah, we need deterrence. We need deterrence. We need deterrence." Okay, cool. How do we get to this? We need deterrence. Okay, we get it.
We call that a problem spotter, not a problem solver. There, that's what that is. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Another one would be, so we did touch upon Xi. Be this one. This came out in 2 years ago. That one's Xi, Study of Power. Okay. And one of the more interesting aspects of this is that it came out and it mainly talked about it actually came out, and some people thought of it as a companion to this book.
Oh, a different book?
Yeah.
Is it like a biography where it talks about like his upbringing,
the fleas and the cave
and all that? The cave.
Yeah. There's that one, but then there was another one who, and I don't know if you can buy it now.
There used to be some fine Hong Kong bookstores.
Yeah, in which they've all been shut down.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that one, it was pretty interesting because the whole premise of the book is that he voted as from a different viewpoint, as that, hey, he's not a monolithic figure as some people point him out to be, but he understands that, hey, he can't really do it, but he's constrained on some of the ways he can do it. But from my perspective, it is an interesting take, but it's just another take on how he expanded his power after he came in after 2012.
Okay. So Xi is Study of Power, or Study in Power.
Cool.
Cool. Check it out. Hey, one last hot take potential. I hear the pandas are coming back to DC. I mean, that's basically why we brought you on. Are you excited about renewed panda diplomacy, or are they those people in suits dressed as pandas and it's
They're
really
secretly bugged?
eyes? Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too.
It's a joke. Don't worry.
No, it's one of those things in which, like, we know why you're doing this, guys. Like, we get it. Like, you want to say, like, yeah, I mean, we're giving you pandas, so we can increase diplomacy, but never mind the fact that we do all the other horrific stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Never mind.
But yeah, I mean, like,
Philippine Navy's fingers,
thumbs. It's just a thumb, Alan.
Just a thumb.
Yeah.
It's still a finger,
right?
Counts
on that hand. I mean,
yeah.
Sacrifices were made, Alan.
Hey man, thanks for coming on. It's always great to talk to you. Really insightful. Where can people find you? Find your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and I'm also on Twitter. I'm also revamping my Discord as well. And
so
then
Sino
also
Talk on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, Sino Talk. You should be able to find me as Sino Talk. Joaquin Camarena, or Sino Talk. You should be able to find me on all platforms via that. You can also find me at atlasnews.com, where I write articles about China and other regions as well, or other issues in the Indo-Pacific as well.
Yeah, man, keep it up. I love your post style where it's like, I have a lot more about this. Here is a brief, here's an image that might get your attention. Got a whole write-up on this and it's available here. And keep sharing those stories, man. And you're keeping us all well informed. I appreciate.
Yeah, we appreciate the insights, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, my man.
All right,
I appreciate it.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
See you, my man.
All right, later.
I'm gonna add the outro music, I think, afterwards. So I'm stop on the recording.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, I am not joking. I need to go eat this food. It was great talking to you, man. Cheers.
See you.
Cheers.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.